Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I have Logan with me. Logan, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Jamie. Just enjoying some old throwback games of late.
Yeah, I'm good. Pretty much everything I've been playing is pretty much what everyone else is playing. The Atomic Heart, Hogwarts Legacy, Valheim, the Resident Evil remake demo, which kicked my behind in, which we'll talk about later in the show. But
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was a good demo, but I'll get into my problem with it later on. It's a skill issue, but we'll talk about that later. Valheim, that's damn good. And yeah, what have you been playing?
I just finished Power Slave Exhumed, which is a remaster of Power Slave or Exhumed, depending on what market you lived in, from the 90s. Night Dive Studios did the remaster. And it's really good, and they added some like modern, mechanics. Like the map is easier to understand, and it's the pacing and everything. It's really fun. It's like '90s Doom Quake with aliens and ancient mythology and undead, and it's really fun. I just beat that, and then I hopped on to Quake, and I've been playing the Quake remaster, and I've just been on a '90s kick, man. How about you?
I mean, like I said, just the Atomic Hearts and stuff. Basically, the newer stuff. You mentioned Night Dive before the show and just what you've been playing. They meant to have a big release this month, System Shock remake, and that's been put off for years. It's changed developer, it's changed engines, and from what I've seen so far in the new version, it actually looks really good. It's been pushed back to May, and that's just for the PC version. Now, the game is still coming out for Xbox and PlayStation at some point, but other than the fact that it's just May for the PC version, that's it right now. It's been a bit weird for delays recently because we pretty much can get all that stuff out of the way now. The Suicide Squad game, that was going to be a absolutely huge game. People saw what it looked like, and a lot of people said the same thing. It looked like superhero Crackdown. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I like the look of the game. I thought it was fun. I think the problem is that when you have people like Captain Boomerang, you expect to throw boomerangs. And when you play as Harley Quinn, you expect to use like a baseball bat or a mallet. But in the demo they showed, everyone was using machine guns. And I think that was a big problem for people because, like, if you're playing as these superheroes, or I should say anti-heroes, in this DC game set in the Arkhamverse, you'd think you'd get combat like that, but what we saw wasn't indicative of that. And while I'm completely fine with the game being different to the Arkham games, even though it's in the Arkhamverse, what we saw, the gameplay did look fun, but like specialized weapons, like again, we saw Captain Boomerang use a machine gun. He has boomerangs. like why can't he use them? But I think them delaying the game will do the game some good. And honestly, I think a lot of people's big problem with the game was that battle pass thing. The second most people see a battle pass now, it just turns them off, because if you're like me and you vaguely, if you're like me and you play games and you don't like battle passes, it's going to put you off. And if you've only vaguely paid attention to the game, you're going to think it's this big live service game. Like, I've seen people compare it to Destiny and the Avengers game. But if you read the articles describing what the game is, it's just a crazy open world game, right? It's just that battle pass system and the skins just make people think, okay, this is Destiny, this is Avengers game. It's one of those live service style games. It really isn't, and I think they're just going to go back to the drawing board and how they're going to monetize it. Because if you think about it, Batman Arkham Knight came out in 2015, and they put out a little bit of content afterwards, and I will say the expansions for that game weren't good. They were very short. The Harley Quinn expansion you can finish in about 5 minutes. But they got working on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League basically when Fortnite came out and it was ruling the world. It introduced the battle pass system to the mainstream. So while they were making this like single player / co-op game, they must have been looking at the monetization structure of something like a Fortnite and thought, right, we're going to put this into the game. Because at the time, in 2017, like, that was the thing. That was like the big thing. Call of Duty adopted it. Battlefield tried to adopt it. Halo's adopted it. And when it was way into development, those games were just taking over the industry. And now you have people losing their mind over thinking it being a live service title. Even though in the demo, by the way, they said, look, all the content that we're going to put out, everything you can buy is cosmetic only. That's it. And they're going to put out expansions as well. But people just heard that and heard Avengers. And, while I think when they get that game out, be it 6 months down the line or a year, I think it will legitimately be a good game. But people freaked out when they saw that battle pass. And Logan, I know you don't like that whole like live service thing, but it really isn't that style of game.
Yeah, I think battle pass is just frankly kind of a trigger word and kind of just, gets PTSD for people for gaming, and they're like, "Oh great, here we go again. Another battle pass, another games as a service title." Even if it's not a game 100% in that kind of line of thinking. So, the idea that they're delaying it a bunch after getting a whole bunch of criticism makes me wonder if they're gonna try to do a No Man's Sky or a Halo Infinite kind of just reboot a little bit before they re-reveal it down the line and maybe change up some things. Because, like you said, characters that have well-known weapons and all they're using are generic machine guns. I mean, like, come on, doesn't that take away a little bit of the immersion for a superhero game? Like, there's so many different shooters out there. Like if you don't play an Arkham game you don't play as Batman or walk around with a 12 gauge. I mean, he's Batman. That's what he does. And so I don't know. Like I agree. I think it'll be fine down the line, but I'm curious to see how they change it.
Yeah, I mean, this is rock steady. Like in my opinion, they've never put out a bad game. Like Arkham Asylum put them on the map. Arkham City is one of my favorite games of all time, and then they came out with Arkham Knight a few years later. And look, while I do think Arkham Knight has some disappointing elements, like the fact there's no proper boss battles in Arkham Knight, like that blew my mind. The fact that not many reviews actually mentioned that really annoyed me at the time, because you have like Riddler races instead. Like, which I don't know, but like I think they'll do a good job in the end. It's just battle passes in like right now in 2023, people want more single player content and co-op content that traditional, but that battle pass just scared people. Like, I think the problem is with gamers is that they see something and they make a snap judgment call right there and then. So look at Redfall. Redfall is a single-player or co-op first-person shooter set in an open world. Now, if you
Left 4 Dead,
yeah, everyone was saying Left 4 Dead because apparently it looked like Left 4 Dead. But if you actually read the articles and watch the gameplay, it's basically Microsoft's version of Far Cry. And in my opinion, that is amazing. I love how Far Cry games play, and Microsoft needs like an open-world game like that in Game Pass. And it's basically a vampire-filled Far Cry game. But everyone freaked out, said it was like Left 4 Dead, and some people to this day still think it's going to be like a Borderlands-style game. It's not. Like, but gamers make that snap judgment call, and it's annoying. I've been putting up with this for years. It's like remember when Avatar came out, the movie in 2009? People saw the blue aliens and said, "Look, they like Smurfs." Snap judgment call. Like, and it's annoying. Gamers do it all the time. When Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy was announced, and they said single player, action adventure, no microtransactions. Every single comment on my posts talking about that game were, "Jamie, it looks cool, but I'm concerned because of Avengers." Like, gamers do this all the time. And, maybe for Guardians of the Galaxy, I can maybe understand that snap judgment call because it was Square Enix and all that stuff. But like, we have to step back and stop judging things right away. Like, every time a game's delayed now, people say, literally, you can search it on Twitter, I don't want another Cyberpunk situation. We can't look at every single delay and think, oh, it's Cyberpunk. Starfield gets delayed. Oh, Cyberpunk. Like, it's not the same. Plus, Cyberpunk was a last-gen console game as well, and they blatantly didn't need to put that on there because that city is intense on like GPUs and stuff, and the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 blatantly couldn't handle it. That's a story for another day. But yeah, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. People freaked out. I think they'll sort it out in the end. It's Rocksteady. Again, they make amazing games. Anyway, we'll move on. Oh, by the way, Logan, did you actually get on to starting the Arkham games yet?
I've downloaded it and it's ready to roll, but I haven't jumped in yet.
Right, by the next show, I want your impression of at least the first few chapters.
Okay, I'll give you a report synopsis, a book report on Arkham Asylum.
Good. You mentioned this before the show. The Outer Worlds Space's Choice Edition launched, and people are having mixed thoughts about it. And, basically it's the next-gen bespoke version of the Outer Worlds with all DLC and all that stuff. And apparently the performance isn't all that good, is it?
It's pretty janky, to be honest. Like, you hate to label something a shameless cash grab, but one could throw out that term. It's not great right now. To be honest, it seems kind of like a Take-Two, has the publishing rights for the first game. They're not gonna get it for the second game, so let's milk a next-gen version update of the game, even though it runs great and is enhanced on X anyway. So like they make it truly with FPS boost. That's how it's enhanced. It wasn't Series XS enhanced. But so now they have a new version that is only available to like buy the game, or if you had the digital version of the game and the DLCs, you could buy a $10 upgrade. So I own the game physically originally, and then I own the two DLCs. So to kind of get a workaround, since they were on sale, I bought the digital of the original game, and then the $10 upgrade. So for $29.99, I got the Spacer's Choice basically instead of for $47 on sale. So that way I took care of it, but I'm gonna wait a bit to revisit it because it is a janky, steaming hot mess right now.
Yeah, so the weird thing about that game is, it is the original game, the Outer Worlds. It's Gen 9 aware. So, like, if you play it on an Xbox Series X or S, the funny thing is, like, I think that was one of those games where they gave it an FPS boost, and then it was also Gen 9 aware. So, basically, Sniper Elite 4 had the same thing. It was Gen 9 aware, it had higher frames and all that stuff, but it also has FPS boost. So, I think it's the same situation. I think it's also Gen 9 aware on PlayStation as well. So, basically, if you want the better performance right now, you're probably better off playing the last gen version, air quotes. But this is basically, Take-Two, 2K, private division, getting as much money as they can out of this publishing deal as they can. Because like you said, Microsoft, they publish in 2 and everything beyond that. And 2K basically owns the rights to the first game's publishing. I think they'll fix it eventually. I just think it's one of those things where people are getting sick of games that are just broken. Like, we have these super powerful consoles now, and we have games that are struggling to hit 60 when they have a performance mode. That shouldn't be happening. And I'm not even sure who made this version, because Obsidian has barely talked about it. And normally when it comes to their titles, they talk endlessly and market their stuff. So, maybe it was one of those
They released an apology that... Oh, go ahead.
No, continue. I didn't even know they released out on that.
Obsidian had a community post about it saying that they apologized for the quality and this, and they said the team at Private Division would be having a patch and some updates coming soon. To me, the terminology and the apology made it sound like, look, we're apologizing because it was our work originally and our name is associated with it, but it sounds like somebody else is in charge of this version in particular. That's kind of my guess, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that sounds like they've gotten a port studio to do it. uh, Unfortunately, that does happen with these things. The thing is, when it comes to ports and remasters and stuff, like there's two different outcomes where one, you either get this really amazing, well done remaster, like, you know, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which I'll bring up all the time. Saints Row the Third Remastered is an excellent remaster, and sometimes you just have these cash grabs, and it come in two forms: direct ports, so Prototype 1 and 2. Those are direct ports of the 360 version. There's no enhancements at all. At all. In fact, they actually look worse than the 360 and PS3 versions. And there's the type where they do a visual upgrade, but the performance tanks. So, yeah, Private Division, they need to get a patch out. And the thing is, I was going to buy it. Like, I own the Outer Worlds. I haven't played the expansions, so I thought, why not? I'll get it all together in one fancy package in the nice new case. And yeah, I'm not buying it until they fix it. But hey, it's Private Division. I'm sure they'll get someone on it. Because 2K, I will say this, I bash 2K a lot for their stance on things like, you know, they basically claim people's videos for using simple trailer footage, even if it's heavily edited. They've claimed my own gameplay, like my own Grand Theft Auto gameplay, and they've claimed it as theirs. And the fact that they block Xbox game DVR on about 99% of 2K games. That one really annoys me, by the way. So if you fire up a backwards compatible 2K game, I can guarantee you right now, DVR doesn't work. Which is super annoying, by the way. The amount of times I've wanted to post game clips of Bioshock or Spec Ops The Line. You know? Anyway, that's a story for another day. Have you got anything else on the topic before we move on, Logan?
No, just that it's a bummer, and like I said, I went ahead and got it because I got a good deal on it for sale and stuff. But I recommend people wait till it's patched, and hopefully more publishers learn not to do these, caked in remasters. Like either make a full fledged remaster remake that has a bunch of new stuff, or make the upgrade free. Because, I mean, $10 for me as an upgrade if you already own the stuff isn't that big of a deal. Because you get theoretically better textures and environments, and a level cap up to 99 now, and a whole bunch of some quality of life improvements and all the DLC. But, for somebody jumping in as a fresh purchase for $60 right up front, it's a tough ask.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably get it eventually. And plus, The Outer Worlds, it's a good game. If you like Fallout, you're pretty much going to like this. Anyway, we'll move on. So, Dead Space Remake came out in January, blew people's expectations away because, look, EA, they've been through a rough patch over the past decade, so people were either expecting something mediocre or something just okay. And it turns out the Dead Space Remake is bloody excellent. It's one of the best games of the year, in my opinion. It's incredible. And honestly, flawless. I played that game from start to finish, not a single bug. Nothing. Which surprised me because we see bugs in a lot of games now. You finished that, right, Logan?
Oh yeah, I'm on my New Game Plus run right now and collecting the marker fragments and stuff so I can get the secret ending that'll ease the second remake, assuming they do it.
Yeah, I mean, they put so much replayability into the game where they didn't actually have to. They could have just made the whole thing from the ground up like they did, but without the replayability stuff. In the original game, for instance, for people that haven't played the remake, in the original game, you have to use nodes to open some doors in the first game, you use nodes to upgrade your suit and weapons. But in this game, there's a level security system. So throughout the game, you get a higher level of clearance and you can access different doors, which means you can use all of your nodes to upgrade your suit. Good times. And it makes the game just, I wouldn't say easier, just more fun. And so basically, they got the game out. It's been really well received. It reviewed well. I think even Angry Joe gave it a 10 out of 10. Like, and he's, a bit stingy when it comes to like high scores, but it's a great game. Well, anyway, EA has been putting out some surveys. And guess what they're asking? If people want remakes for Dead Space 2 and 3. Predictable, but I mean, if a game sells well and the studio, they clearly know what they're doing, it looks like it's definitely going to happen. And the thing is, the Dead Space remake only took 2.5 years to make, which blows my mind because development time in the modern age is bloated beyond belief, especially like they made this game in the pandemic basically, and they got it out and it's flawless. It's absolutely flawless. And I think a lot of people would be willing to buy a remake of 2. And look, people can go back to old tweets or whatever. I think remakes of Xbox 360 gen games are unnecessary. But Dead Space as an IP has been dead for a decade. So the only way this is going to come back is with the remake, and if that did well. Well, it looks like we might get it. Logan, I know you'd be buying a remake of the sequel, yeah?
Oh, 100%. If they remake 2 and if they reimagine the third one, and heck, I would love a port, even just straight up port of the old one that was on the Wii, like Extraction or whatever.
Yeah.
That was never on other consoles. I'd love that. And then there was that Xbox Live Arcade one that was kind of like a puzzle-y game. Like they could, upscale a port of that too. Like, give me all the Dead Space, EA, and I will give you money. Like, just bring more Dead Space.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering like horror games at the minute are popping off. Like, if you go back 10 years ago, horror games weren't really doing that well. You had Resident Evil 5 and 6, which did well. They actually sold really well, but the action set pieces in the namesake sold those games. But like for the past decade, like horror games haven't really been that big. But the past like 2 years or so, people are loving them. And we have Resident Evil coming out, which we'll be talking about in a bit. But I think it'll happen. So I think the fact that they have a bunch of assets in that game, the fact that you do go back to the... Actually, I'm not going to spoil the sequel if people haven't played it yet. But there's assets they could theoretically reuse in a remake of 2. And like Dead Space 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I love that game. Like, there's a part in the sequel where you go into a nursery and there's...
Man, that haunts me.
Yeah, it was terrifying. Like, baby necromorphs crawling on the walls, like, and there's a part in that game where you get trapped in like, I think it's like a gym or like a basketball court or something, and you have to survive like 5 minutes in the dark as they're like crawling towards you. Like, that was amazing. It scared the crap out of me at the time. It probably still is scary, but the sequel just improved on the original, in my opinion. You had big set pieces, although they did have quick time events, but I think they were done really well. Really cool zero G segments. That game pretty much brought in the 360 degree zero G movement. But hey, we're going to see more Dead Space, at least it looks like it. And if you haven't played the Dead Space remake, everyone has to play it. And plus, it even has a story mode, which I just found out recently. So if you play on story mode, it's basically easy. The only difference is your health auto regenerates, meaning you don't have to pick up health packs. Mind blowing. So like people that aren't even into horror games can play this, which is really cool in my opinion. But yeah, more Dead Space, that's definitely a good thing. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, about a half an hour into the show. If people are enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Really helps the channel out. Super chats are live if you want to do all that stuff and support the show. Anyway, so Logan, have you played Atomic Heart yet?
I actually have not, but it's on my list and it looks awesome. And I see the robot ballerinas pop up everywhere.
Yep.
Everybody's always talking about them in the vending machine. and, the angry grandma.
Yep.
And then all the controversy about it. And then there is already talk.
Yeah, Logan, you just cut out there.
Oh, the teases of a second one really interest me as well.
Yeah, so basically, if people haven't played it, it's imagine Bioshock Infinite, but it's an alternate Soviet facility. That's the best way to describe it without spoiling it. And it's amazing. And they just put out an update the other day. Granted, I will say this, the only bad side about Atomic Heart is that the patches are massive. Like, the day 2 patch was 69 gigabytes. The latest patch was 37 gigabytes. Like, compress your files. Like, it's 2023. We shouldn't be struggling with storage like this. But anyway, the new update allows you to change the field of view. Now, for me, that's a big thing because when I play a first-person shooter, sometimes I can feel claustrophobic. Like, I legit get that feeling. But so in like a first-person shooter, like Call of Duty, Halo, Battlefield, I always turn the FOV up to 90 to 95 degrees. And also, if you do that, it can also stop people from getting motion sick. I used to get motion sick with first-person shooters all the time. And then I remember, I think it was Crysis 2 that allowed you to change the field of view, and boom, no more motion sickness. But the game's great so far. There's tons of secrets. The weapons are really good. Again, it's Bioshock. Like, you can't go wrong. The internet is loving the robot ballerinas. Like, type Atomic Heart into the search engine on Twitter. Just look what shows up. And then there's the vending machine. I won't say anything, but if you haven't played Atomic Heart and you do, you'll know what we mean. The vending machine will surprise you. But yeah, the patch is out. It's performing great. If anything, it's performing better. And they're already talking about a sequel, which blew my mind because, the game launched day one on Xbox Game Pass. It hasn't actually been on the market that long, so it must have performed really well. And at least the Game Pass paycheck must have been pretty good. But yeah, it's getting a sequel. And we're still going to get expansions, apparently, for the first game, which is very good in my opinion because I love getting expansions for single-player games. Like, during the Xbox 360 generation, I felt like we got more expansions for single-player content than we do now. And I'm always willing to throw down money for an expansion for a single-player game. Like, look at the 360 generation. You had the Bioshock games that had big expansions. You had Red Dead Redemption with Undead Nightmare 2. GTA 4 had 2 big expansions, were essentially the size of their own games. You had the Lost and the Damned, which was the biker expansion, and then you had the Ballad of Gay Tony, where you basically play as a nightclub bouncer going through the ranks, and it was an amazing game. And it looks like now more than ever, with developers looking towards making more single player content, I think gamers are willing to put down the money for expansions again. Because during the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 generation, we didn't see many big expansions for big single-player games. Hell, it's 2023, and we still have had nothing for Red Dead Redemption 2. And that, in my opinion, that's a crime. That's
madness.
Yeah, they're like, how do you sell 50 million copies and not make Undead Nightmare 2? That thing would print money. But no, they have to rely on shark cards. That's a story for another day we can get into maybe. But yeah, it's good to hear Atomic Heart's doing well. All the drama aside with its release and, the controversy and all that stuff, you can't knock a good game when it's like this. And plus the developer, like, they they've said they just want peace. They don't want to have anything to do with the war and all that stuff. That's that. But yeah, good to see that we're going to be seeing more content for that game. And if people haven't played it yet, I highly recommend it. It's a fun first-person shooter. You have powers in one hand and a gun in the other. It's BioShock, basically. We might as well talk about the Capcom stuff because that was interesting. So Capcom had a showcase where they showed a bunch of old retro things. There's another Mega Man collection missing Xbox again, which I think is annoying people because Capcom are good and bad in the same way. Like, they put some big games on Xbox, and they just don't put smaller games on Xbox. Like, we have a variety of Capcom games on Xbox at the minute, but like, the collections are just lackluster. Like, Logan, I know you want to talk about this because like they keep missing Mega Man games on Xbox.
Yeah, it's weird as they keep skipping Mega Man games. I know they didn't port over the latest Ace Ventura or the lawyer games.
Yes,
They
Attorney.
haven't posted those over. And there several other collections like they pick and choose. They're way more reliable than Square on that end, so I give them credit. They actually support the Xbox platform and we get the major stuff. But like a bunch of the smaller kind of more obscure or like throwback content, they just for some reason just Xbox doesn't make the cut. And it's kind of annoying to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, Capcom, if at the beginning of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 generation, they were in a rough spot. Like, a lot of people predicted their downfall because they hadn't had a big title release in a long time. And then with, the release of Resident Evil 7, Monster Hunter World, I remember the president of Capcom posting a video on Twitter saying, Capcom's back, because they were. It got them, into a good place financially to where the point where they can put out ports, remakes, and make a bunch of new games, which is great to see because I don't want to see Capcom go away. And, they have Street Fighter 6 coming out this year. That's going to be a big deal for them. And I don't know, it's just weird. Like, these little collections of Mega Man games and like old ports of things. Like, we have various Sega collections. There's the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, which we're going to talk about in a bit when it comes to Square. It just seems like these ports would be so easy to do, and they just don't do them. And that just blows my mind because there's a lot of Mega Man fans out there. And it just seems like a missed opportunity. So that's a bit of a shame on them, but hopefully they do better. Again, I want Capcom to thrive, and there's a lot of fans on Xbox that just want to buy the content. But other than that, they showed off Exoprimal again. The game that baited everyone, and I think it was Dino Crisis a year ago. Like, that was shameful. However, I think the game looks fun, and it turns out it's launching in Game Pass when it releases this July. There's going to be an open beta, I think, this month. I'll post the correct date on Twitter when I find out, but honestly, it looks like a fun game. Like, fighting dinosaurs in mech suits. That's what I want in gaming. Like, Logan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, it looks like the perfect kind of new IP to launch in the Game Pass. Like Second Extinction was tried Game Pass, Outriders, like some of these new IP that are multiplayer focused. It's perfect because you get an automatic large install base ready to go to try it out, and then play it, and then offer feedback in the community and get engagement, and then maybe cultivate it and have a new franchise going forward. I, I thought the Dino Crisis kind of tease was funny, but it was also really dirty because we just want a Dino Crisis game. Come on, man. Dinosaurs mixed with Resident Evil, like that would print money at this point, especially in this horror renaissance we're in. So come on, Capcom, let's make it happen. But I'm excited to play this.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fun, and like you mentioned the Dino Crisis thing, like, we've seen all these RE Engine games, like, the latest Resident Evil games, Monster Hunter, and things like Devil May Cry 5, and we see how good these games look. and we're just wondering why not Dino Crisis. like granted, yes, it was a PlayStation 1 era game and it's been a long time, but I think it's been long enough where a lot of people would just view it as a new IP. And like, Resident Evil has like 30 years of like lore built into the franchise, where Dino Crisis, they've had 3 games and it's been long enough to the point where I think people would be like, oh, this is a cool like dinosaur horror game. And I just want to see an RE engine Dino Crisis. I think a lot of people do. But with that aside, I think the dinosaur game looks good. Exoprimal should be fun. Basically, they close off the show with more Resident Evil 4 remake. It looks amazing. And then they put out the Chainsaw demo. And I played it, and I have to say, that game is possibly one of the best looking remakes I've ever seen. It is incredible. The sound's amazing. I will say this though, and this is completely on me, this is not on Capcom, because for some reason, in Resident Evil 2 Remake, and Resident Evil 3 Remake, and evidently with this demo, I cannot aim in these games. At all. When I play a third-person shooter, I can pinpoint, hit people in the head at like a mile away without any issue. These Resident Evil games, I might as well be playing with my feet because it makes no difference. So like, I am terrible, absolute trash fire at this game. And I died very easily. That chainsaw got me quick. But with that aside, I think millions of fans are going to love this. Logan, did you play the demo yet?
I haven't played the demo, but I'm well familiar with the original one. Have played through it countless times. Love it. I've been keeping up with the remake. Looks incredible. I'm excited to see what kind of subtle changes they've done to it, like they did with 2 and 3. And yeah, I'm for sure gonna pick it up because I'm a Resident Evil junkie. It's one of my favorite franchises ever. So I'm absolutely all in to see Leon and everybody else see what they're doing in Europe this time.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, just because I'm bad at the game, that doesn't mean I think it's bad. I'm just terrible at it. But like, I saw a clip the other day of someone who clearly mastered this demo already. So basically, you can move faster than you could in the original. You can move and aim pretty fast, but you can also duck, and you can also do like a roundhouse kick that's pretty powerful, and a slash move and a punch. And like, this person posted a clip on Twitter. If I can find the link, I'll post it. They were running around the village basically like John Wick. It just made me feel shameful. Like I could barely pull off a headshot, and this person's running around like John Wick, headshotting like 5 people in a row, roundhouse kicking two nuns in the middle of the street, and there's me struggling. But yeah, that aside, it looks amazing. The graphics, the sound design, the gore is incredible. Like, if anyone's squeamish for gore, you may want to be careful with this one, but the gore is amazing. I'll just put it that way. The gore in modern games, by the way, beautiful. Dead Space, disgusting. Callisto Protocol, disgusting. This, really disgusting. But yeah, the demo's out. There's no time limit, thankfully, because for some reason, Capcom in the past, they put time limits on demos, and I think that is dumb. Like, I don't understand why any company would do that. Because it's always a small segment. People aren't going to spoil anything. Yeah. But hey, it's out there. I highly recommend people download it and all that stuff. You know what? I think it's time we rant about Square Enix because it's been long enough. So Square Enix and Xbox have this weird love-hate relationship. Or should I say I have this love-hate relationship with them. Like, they've released some of my favorite games of all time. I will praise Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, and Crisis Core all day. Like, those games are phenomenal. But time and time again, they make bad business choices. You know, the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters were hyped for ages, and then they announced which platforms they're going to put them on. It's going to be on iOS, every platform on Earth other than Xbox. Which is a dumb decision, because I would love to play the original Final Fantasy games on Xbox, but that's not going to be happening. And, today they put out a post saying, hey, a bunch of our games are now on sale on Xbox. And a lot of the replies are just people like making fun of them because the sale is not that impressive at all. In fact, like I talk about Crisis Core and how good it is. Like, I'll put it like this. Crisis Core Remake is legitimately an amazing game, and I think everyone on Xbox should play it. However, the sale they're offering right now, maybe not. Maybe wait a little bit till it's cheaper because I don't know. But yeah, I think it's just weird. Like Square Enix just tries to make us all seem like they're all on board all the time. Anyway, where am I going with this? So with all these bad business choices, they put 100 million into Forsaken, and I haven't played Forsaken, so I can't really speak on it. But like the way they marketed it, at least in the UK, was weird because it was non-existent. So if you spend $100 million on a game, you kind of want to market it, and I have not seen a single TV advert at all for it. So they clearly didn't do the job with marketing the game. And they basically start advertising today that they're going to have this game filled with NFTs, and there's going to be 10,000 NFTs. Yay, that's what gamers want. NFTs. It's not, but Logan, like, what's your thought on this whole thing? Because the NFT thing really popped people off today.
Yeah, I don't know why they are obsessed with going down with this sinking ship of this NFT thing. It's like obsession at this point. I do not understand why they are convinced that this fad thing that has been failing universally, people getting into legal trouble, like banks collapsing, financial fraud, all kinds of things. Artwork, people not having true ownership, and then just all this stuff. Why they want to hitch their wagon to that. It's mind numbing. And then on top of that, to have the audacity to act like you're best buddies with Xbox when you treat them like a second rate platform is just comical. That they're like, oh, we're gonna have a stream with our buddies, our friends at Xbox. See, everything's great. We love each other. We don't hate Xbox. And then you look at like a bunch of the comments, and people are basically not buying that so much and clowning them a lot. And people are just done with them. They're just fed up with them. They're like, hey, why should I support a publisher that doesn't, you know, seem to give a flying flip about my platform of choice? On one hand, I get the argument that, hey, if you buy the games, maybe they'll bring more. It's like, but the counter is like, we do buy these games. They're not bringing more, or they bring inconsistent. Like, we'll release a game and then we'll give you the prequel, but not the game, or we'll start you off with the third entry in a trilogy, and then give you the spin-offs and the older ones eventually, or we'll just pretend this series doesn't exist and bring you this one. It's just insane what Square does. And honestly, I just have no idea what they're doing. And I don't know why Xbox keeps pretending that they're good buddies and friends with them. Because on the outside looking in, at least, it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I mean the double-edged sword thing is true because, like, when Crisis Core came out, people were messaging me like, "Hey, I want to get this, but I don't want to be funding, games we don't get on Xbox." And it's like I completely understand that. And like, I got Crisis Core for Christmas, so bit of a loophole there. And like an amazing game. But like the fact that the remake is clearly what you're meant to play next, like, and here's the thing, like, as a standalone title, it's an amazing, I'd say, 20-hour long Final Fantasy game, and it's good to have a JRPG of that quality that's 20 hours long that didn't require me to grind, that has a fun and easy combat system, like, amazing. In fact, I may have to think on this. Crisis Core Remake, I'm just going to call it that, may actually be my favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. It used to be 10, so I may have to mull that over. But it's weird because, like, I get the situation. Like, do you do you buy this game or any like Square game and support games that won't come to the console in the future? Or do you think, well, I will buy this game because that's the only way I'm going to get support? Like, Xbox fans are put in this weird corner. They painted themselves into a corner with this decision. And I think it's awful. Like, Xbox fans shouldn't feel obligated to buy games they don't want. Like, there was a game released on Xbox last year, and I think it was a remake of an original PlayStation game. I think it was called the Dido Chronicles or something. I always mess the name of that up, but you know which one I'm talking about. And like, I wasn't going to buy that. I played the demo. I'm like, no, it's not for me. But I could have. I bet there's people that bought that just thinking, oh, I need to support Square to get more games. And that's just the wrong way to go about it. Do you know what would people buy on Xbox? The Final Fantasy Remake, 7 Remake. They would buy the Pixel remasters, but that's no option. And it's stupid. And Square Enix, like, they literally put out a post yesterday in an article saying that they are going to continue making the exact same choices they're making right now. That blew my mind. Like, when I was scrolling through my feed and I saw that statement, I misread it. I thought they were going to change things. Nope. They're going to continue to make the choices they do now. They're going to continue to make timed exclusive, all these exclusive content with PlayStation, despite the fact every single release they make and put out, they complain and say the sales missed expectations. They can't blame Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics now, which they did for years, by the way. And yeah, they're going to continue making the crappy business choices that they're going to forever, basically. And it's a shame because I see so many people on Xbox saying they want to buy, insert Square Enix game, but they can't. And you always get these, like, people that reply saying, oh, it'll only sell 2 copies on Xbox. Like, if you go on Twitter right now and just search Xbox and, like, Final Fantasy game, like, there's people, if not thousands and thousands of people that would buy these games. Granted, I put out there, if Final Fantasy VII Remake launched on Xbox, I bet it would sell at least 1 million. Because it's a household name, and people have been wanting it for so long. It's just an awful situation. And the fact they're going to continue making these crappy business choices, the NFT thing, by the way, is the dumbest thing ever. They've invested millions and millions of dollars into making the art to sell as NFTs. And, like, having an NFT-based game makes no sense. For instance, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which is a fine stealth game, by the way. Like, Ubisoft tried to put NFTs in that in its, I believe it was its 3rd year into the game, and they said, like, oh, these NFTs, you're going to be able to use them in different, like, Ubisoft games and stuff. And, like, 6 months after the project started, the NFT stuff, they literally closed up shop. They said, look, you can continue to play Breakpoint, but support is ending. So you have all these people that bought these NFTs that can't do anything with them other than sell them to other people that want to buy those NFTs and play that game with those NFTs. Like, it's mind-blowing. Like you were saying, there's a bank or like a big company in the US that crashed in the US last year. FTX, I believe that was what they were called. Like, the crypto market basically crashed. And NFTs are a big part of that. And, like, whenever I see these crypto people on Twitter, I just laugh because, like, these people that invest into crypto the way they do on Twitter in NFTs, especially NFTs, they act like stock market brokers and they want it to be part of the gaming industry. You have Dr. Disrespect talking about how his NFTs could make people rich and all this stuff. It's like, we've complained for decades, literally decades now almost, about microtransactions in games or small purchases like, the horse armor. And, like, now the second we are possibly able to make some money back off our purchases and own content, stupid. Like, I'd be interested, anyone in chat, have you ever played a game like an RPG? I'm going to use Hogwarts Legacy, for instance. You get this shiny wizard's hat and think, you know what, I want to own this particular wizard's hat with a number 7 on it, and that will be mine forever, and no one else can use that hat unless they buy it. But if they do have that hat in that game, it doesn't mean they own it. No, nobody wants that. Nobody cares. I never once played Ghost Recon Breakpoint and saw another player in co-op and thought, wow, that dude's t-shirt with the skull on it, I need to own that in-game so I can sell it at some point because I'm an asshole. Like, I never thought that. Like, I don't normally swear on the channel, but come on, man, nobody cares. Gamers don't care. We passed the point of NFTs. Like, it's 2023. We don't need this crap. Like, NFTs, no. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. You have $1 billion corporation, like Square Enix, making these crap choices over and over and over again. Like, they are the company, by the way, that spent $100 million making the Tomb Raider remake, which is an amazing game, and then they spent more than $120 million on marketing the bloody thing. Like that blows my mind. How is that a thing? Like, Logan, have you got anything else to say on the topic before I move on? Because, like, Square Enix they make my blood boil.
The only thing I'd add is that, honestly, at this point, I kind of do hope Sony buys them, or somebody does, and just, has a overhaul of vision for the company. Because at this point, I think that's what it needs. Because what they're doing now is just, I don't know, they haven't exactly sunk, but they're not swimming and thriving either. They're kind of just limping along. And I expect Final Fantasy 16 to be well received, people to enjoy it. This whole policy of taking the bag from Sony or other things just to, prop up their game in this marketing cycle or whatever, it's coming back to royally bite them. And eventually you would think someone would get that, but I don't know. I think for their own best interest, someone should buy Square. I don't know who, but there should be an overhaul there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't like seeing, like, companies fail, but would I be lying if if I would say that I enjoy seeing Square struggle? I mean, that's debatable. But, like, I'm just annoyed as a player. Like, the fact that they keep messing up. They messed up, like, Deus Ex as a franchise. They put Eidos Montreal through hell with that last game they put out, because it was in development and then it was split into 2 games, and then they put microtransactions in the game. And, like, the fact that they, like, Deus Ex, an RPG where you have, skill points that you put into skills, and Square Enix basically forced them into selling off skill points as microtransactions. That blows my mind. And all of their Japanese games don't get that same treatment. The Japanese developers allow them to do what they want and make their games. Notice a lot of their Japanese RPGs don't have those microtransactions, but the Western ones did. And, and then they don't even market their own games. Strangers of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins, barely marketed it. Star Ocean 6, The Divine Force, I have not seen a single trailer on television or YouTube, like, in the ads at all for that. I'd be interested, has anyone in chat seen a single advert, a trailer, just shown in the ads on either YouTube, Twitch, or television? Like, it's been about 8 months since the release, at least it feels like it. And Logan, have you ever seen a single ad for Star Ocean?
I think I saw one maybe at launch, and then most of the stuff I've seen is from mutuals on Twitter who are enjoying it. That's it. It certainly hasn't been from Square's part that I'm aware of the game.
Like, it's just weird that they have these games and they just don't market them. Crisis Core, again, amazing title. I've barely seen marketing for it, and that should be a title that they are literally marketing constantly, because that's the type of game, that's an evergreen title. It can sell year round, basically. But nope. And yeah, it's weird. I just don't like that. Anyway, where am I going with this? Okay, yeah. We'll move on because I've been ranting about Square Enix for about 20 minutes, but like we just want more titles on more platforms. Like, and I hope the CMA and all that stuff, they'll take that into account because, which we'll be talking about in a bit, like, those titles should be on more platforms. We'll move on. Okay, so Valheim. Valheim is now available in Xbox Game Pass. It is an Xbox game preview, so it is in preview. There's no achievements just yet. The developer has said that the game isn't that far out. And, obviously when it comes out, it'll get Steam achievements. It's going to get a graphics update and all that stuff. Anyway, I've been playing it, and I have to say, I think millions of people are going to love this. The game already has over 10 million players on PC, so it's a pretty big deal. And I've been hyped for this for a while. And it's a survival game, basically set in Norse mythology. So you play as a Viking, you dropped onto a procedurally generated island. It's basically Minecraft, but less blocky. Now, for me, I don't like survival games. I don't like it when I have to manage thirst and hunger and all that crap. I don't like that. However, in this game, you just have to manage one thing, basically. Health. That's it. And it's good. It's damn good. Like, Logan, I'm guessing you haven't played it yet since it just came out.
I haven't played it, but I have a friend who absolutely loves it on Steam, and so I've watched a bit of it in the past, and it's a very popular game, and I look forward to crossplay with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. Like you said, it's got crossplay. You can make buildings, ships, all that stuff. You fight huge bosses, and I think that's the big appeal to the game. Like, in the game, you can get these like trophies from like deer or boars, and if you place X amount of trophies on this like pedestal thing, you get to fight like a giant like deer that throws lightning bolts at you, like just crazy things like that, and it's very good. Like again, I do not like survival games because of the micromanagement aspect, but this game is damn good, and I was playing it till 4 a.m. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's good. Although I will say this, if people are planning on playing it, under any circumstance, do not mess with the save system. Because I messed up. I used a resource that I thought I shouldn't have. So I noticed there was multiple saves listed. And I clicked on a previous save. And basically it yanked my character from my world and placed me into a new one that was basically a replica of the one I had. So basically my exact world, but without the house I'd made. So if people planning on playing it, do not touch the save. Just start a game. Don't worry about it. And I'm going to give a tip to people. You'll notice that you can't make anything other than a hammer and an axe. Well, once you make a hammer, you have access to a bunch of creation tools, such as making buildings and stuff. It's very easy. Like, if you're used to playing Minecraft or Forge, where pieces click together, it's kind of like that. But yeah, it's very good. I can't actually say anything bad about it. Like, the graphics aren't amazing, but it's not meant to be, and it gets its graphics update with its full release. But if people are in the mood for a survival game where you don't have to micromanage, thirst, cold, heat, all that stuff, you don't do that in this game. Literally just health, and it's very intuitive. It's very easy to understand. Like, I've been watching streamers play that for the past year on PC, and I've been wondering, how are they going to transfer those controls to a controller? Yep, it's fine. It plays how you'd imagine a game like that would play. Left trigger, I'll just say right trigger is, heavy hit, right bumper is light hit, that kind of stuff. X is click to pick up, basic Xbox third person controls. But yeah, I highly recommend it, and it's only about 1 gigabyte, which shocked me because I'm so used to downloads of upwards of 100 gigabytes lately. Atomic Heart, 67 gigabyte update, but no, this game 1 gigabyte, and it loads super fast. You have these huge procedure generated maps, and they load in about 5 seconds. So yeah, highly recommend people play that. It's a good game. Anyway, we're about now into the show. If people enjoying it, again, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Really helps the channel out. Super chats are live if you want anything read out and all that stuff. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, let's get the Activision stuff out of the way because that stuff's interesting. So this stuff's been going on for a year, and it looks like Sony may have lied multiple times. It just came out today that Sony said that Microsoft cannot be trusted when it comes to the Activision deal because Starfield. But Microsoft has never once said that Starfield would be multi-platform. They've never once said Starfield would be multi-platform at all. There's no mentions of tweets, articles, statements, Xbox Newswire stuff, nothing. They said Bethesda legacy titles remain on PlayStation. Things like games that are already out. And by the way, if people in chat have noticed, and I know you've noticed this, Logan, ever since Microsoft said that, people have been trying to decode what that means. Legacy titles. Even though we all bloody know what the term legacy title means. A game that already exists on the platform. But basically, your Doom Eternal, that's there. Your Skyrim Definitive Edition, that's there. That's going to continue to be sold there. I was going to say the Outer Worlds, but basically everything that's already there. And Sony are lying. Now, this isn't the first time Sony have lied. They've lied multiple times in the past. They've been caught out. I believe that that YouTube channel you follow a lot, Logan. Was it Hodgelaw?
Hoglaw.
Hoglaw,
Yeah, he's a legal expert.
Like he posted a list of things like Sony's been pulled up on. I remember in the late 2010s, or I should say late 2000s, should I say, Sony lied about how many PSPs were sold. They lied about that to their own investors. Remember when Sony had the PSN hack of 2011? They lied and didn't tell people for 2 weeks. People's personal information lost. I wonder if that gets brought up, by the way. So basically, all this stuff's been going on, and they've lied multiple times. Like, it's getting endless to this point. Like, there's no actual things online of Microsoft saying Starfield would be multi-platform. Like, for the longest time, Microsoft said, "Hey, Starfield will be exclusive." They said it like 8 times on their E3 show last year. Well, anyway, it's continuing on. It looks like the deal may be closing soon. Logan, I know you've been following this topic in depth more than me because legal talk just makes my mind melt. So, what's your thought on everything that's been going on?
Yeah, it's been a giant cluster, that's for sure. It basically in the last week or so since we were on here, like there were updates about the European Commission looking like they would probably allow it and let it go through with some concessions, and that they seemed good with it. The CMA was like, well, we're not going to let anybody else influence our decisions, but we'll look at what others do, but we're going to make our own decisions. So very much not a we are passing or we're not passing, just kind of a we'll do what we want kind of statement. And then the provisional findings from phase 2 were released, like what they had suggested, what Sony had said, what Microsoft had said, and then their responses to all that. And then, there was the tweet from, Lulu from Activision, who, she had basically called out, you remember the meme with the bicycle. And so there was that meme. And then, come to find out that same day, apparently, in her words, Jim Ryan had said that we don't care about a COD deal. We just want to kill your merger. And so basically, like, they had no interest in negotiating a deal, or were just being insanely difficult for reasons that they just don't want the deal. They just want it to go away. So, like, they don't have interest in actually sitting down to hammer out a deal. They just want the merger to be axed. And so she put that out, and then she was asked what day did that happen, and she said February 21st. You go back, that was the same day as her meme. Put 2 and 2 together. It's like, interesting. And so it's a clown show, this whole thing. And you see more and more about different regulatory bodies across the globe getting called out for how they're doing things. People raising questions about, like, is this actually legally focused or is this just politically motivated? Like, you know, because if you look at the letter of the law, this feels like it should pass. But then there's all this, like, you know, conspiracy type stuff coming out. Like Sony's like throwing out ideas that they would hide bugs and sabotage the final mission of Call of Duty. Like you get to the very end of the game and it like bricks your console or something like that. Or like, oh, we can't trust parity, or we just can't trust Microsoft. And then it's just ridiculous. They're grasping at straws at this point, throwing out, blatant just nonsense, just hoping that the regulators are ignorant enough or politically motivated enough to latch onto it and use it as a weapon against Microsoft because it legally based and like logically based and business based, what they're suggesting is insane. It makes no sense. Why would a company that has guaranteed that they will put their game on a platform and that keeps signing deals, by the way, with new places to get games? They announced a new one today with a Ukrainian based cloud company that apparently has like 4 million plus or so subscribers. And they said there's going to be more deals coming in the coming weeks for 10-year deals. Like basically Brad has a bag of fun money and he's just handing out, deals for Call of Duty and all this stuff to everybody, but Sony keeps, spitting in their face about it. It's just like, no, we don't want your deal. We want nobody to have it. We just want it to be the way it is where we benefit and, forget everybody else. So it's putting them into a corner where it's like, okay, it looks even more ridiculous now for Sony to keep acting the way they are, and for regulators to block it if they choose to. Because legally based, and Brad Smith, president of Microsoft, even came out today and said that, look, I have a hard time seeing this succeeding in court for a regulator if the basis of their concerns is access to Call of Duty. Because literally, we're giving it to everybody who asks. So it's just nonsense. And next month we should know one way or another how European Commission and the CMA go. If it looks like the EU will pass it, and CMA is a hands up, 50-50, who knows. If they pass it, great. If not, Microsoft does have actions. They have the nuclear option, which is like, forget you, UK, and pull out, which they probably wouldn't do, but it is an option. They have potentially set up Activision Blizzard King as its own entity in just the UK and just the UK alone. Basically, everybody else in the world gets all the benefits of all those titles in Game Pass and all this other stuff, but the UK is like, well, you played yourself. Congratulations. You get no benefits like that. And they set it up like that. Or they just take it to court and see what happens. So it's not a game over if it gets blocked or contested by the CMA. It's not the be all end all like some people spin it to be. But it would be annoying if they cause a mess about it. But we will see next month, basically.
Yeah, I think either way, Sony is messed up their relationship with Activision for good. Like that whole thing is done. Like no matter what happens, like there is bad blood there now because it's been dragged on for too long. Like the countless amount of man hours when it comes to legal fees and all that stuff. Like, like Sony's in a bad spot. And here's the thing, like I don't know why they keep making this thing about we don't know if we'll get Call of Duty forever. Like they literally promised this service today that I've never heard of. 10 years of Call of Duty. Like I've never heard of this service. And I'll put it like this: if Microsoft's offering like big money bags for like service deals, I'm telling Microsoft right now, I have a streaming service where they can put Call of Duty on for 10 years. I'll accept £1 billion sterling. That'll be a good deal. But jokes aside, like, I think, like, they keep making this point of, like, oh, we're not going to get Call of Duty, we're not guaranteed. Like, it would be sealed on, like, in stone, basically, because it's just dumb at this point. And here's the thing, it's in Sony's, like, worst interest if excuse me, if they don't get the deal, because let's say the Activision thing falls through, and let's say there's no deals with anyone. Well, there's so much bad blood there that Sony may not end up getting caught in the end anyway. Because think about it, what I like to call the how shall I put it?
The monkey paw. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, the monkey paw. Like, let's say the deal doesn't happen, and Microsoft, Sony, they all, go the different ways. Well, Microsoft could theoretically partner up with Call of Duty, or say Activision, and get Call of Duty exclusive because there is no deal in place. Sony's exclusivity deal for Call of Duty marketing runs out in 2025, I believe. And in between now and then, there's the Call of Duty this year, which is basically a standalone expansion for Modern Warfare 2. And then we're getting a Black Ops game next year. And then the year after that it'll be a Black Ops, like, 0.5 thing. So, like, in between now and then, they're essentially getting one whole Call of Duty, which isn't a lot. And, like, I don't know, Logan, do you think, like, I have any, like, point here? Because that's the name of it I came up with. Scorched Earth scenario. Like, the deal doesn't go through, and Sony doesn't get Call of Duty because there's so much bad blood there, it would just mess up everything.
Yeah, like, that's a whole topic itself, because, like, people are like, oh, well, business is business, they'll just, shake it off and things will go back. I'm like, no. Have you been seeing the exchanges between people? And, like, think about it this way. You have spent 18 months by the time it's, like, a month or two from now. 18 months trying to get this deal done. You've gone through regulators, you've spent countless hours flying the globe, talking to investors, everybody across the spectrum of all these different industries. And you have spent all this time and money and resources dedicated to getting this deal done because you believe it is in the best interest of your company and your shareholders. And then you have this company that you thought of as a partner at one point, spent kicking and clawing and screaming and gnashing and wailing and just causing an absolute circus of a show, trying to kill your deal that you believe is in the best interest of the parties involved that matter. That, to me, would create tons of bad blood if the deal fell through. Like, how can you go back to, oh, everything's fine and happy and great when they throw up this thing? There could totally be a scorched earth scenario where Sony doesn't get caught at all. Or, potentially, if, I doubt they would do it, but theoretically, like, if the deal passes and then, like, some countries are like, well, you don't have to sign a deal with Sony because I never signed the one you offered. Like, there could be potentially scenarios where Sony doesn't even get caught. And then it would be like, careful what you wish for. You wanted this deal not to happen? Well, congratulations. Now you get nothing. It could be like that, definitely.
Because, like Sony said, like, they wouldn't be able to pay for their first party, like, portfolio if it wasn't for the money they make on Call of Duty. But they still going to be making their, 30%? Like, so I don't understand the issue. Do they not want Microsoft to make a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to each Call of Duty copy sold? Do they not want, like, let's face it, if the deal goes through and everything works, like, Microsoft, they aren't going to gain, like different territories as, like, number one spot. And I think Sony's worried about that. Like the Xbox 360 absolutely dominated in the UK and in the US and Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and Spain, France. But like the rest of the world is pretty much PlayStation centric. And I think maybe just Sony's worried that the needle will just move just an inch. I doubt that'll happen, by the way. I think Microsoft they'll gain probably the UK back as number one. And like one of my biggest problems with the whole CMA situation is that they seem so content with protecting Sony, which like if people like listen that live in the UK at any point, Nintendo, Sega, Microsoft, Sony, they've all been at number one at some point. Which I don't know why they're so intent on protecting Sony because, in the like Nintendo was number one, and then the Mega Drive was number one, and then the Nintendo 64 was number one, and then the PlayStation 1, and then the PlayStation 2, and I think the next one was the Xbox 360 was number one. I think to this day the Xbox 360 is the best selling console of all time in the UK. As of like 2013, that was the case, but it's weird that like there's so much like the industry, including people at like various like media outlets, like they're so intent on Sony remaining like the number one spot worldwide and all that stuff. I just don't get it. Like you have these people in their like early 30s, late 30s, early 40s who like grew up as PlayStation, been here for Xbox for the past 20 years. And they still want Sony to be on top all the time. Whenever Sony buys a studio, it's always called organic. No matter how many studios they buy, it's called organic. And the second Microsoft wants to buy Activision, it's an issue. Even though they guarantee to get Call of Duty for at least 10 years, because we don't know if Call of Duty might not even be here in 10 years. It's like the dumbest thing right now. And Sony's continuously lying. Like, and here's the problem. You have these people online that will defend Sony no matter what because they just never change their preference. They are unwilling to say anything bad about Sony. They're unwilling to even give constructive criticism. And they are defending Sony at all costs. Like, Microsoft have literally said, we'll write down on contract Call of Duty 10 years. How is that a bad deal? Sony literally does not make, like, they don't lose anything by this at all, and it's just weird. It's gone on for so long. It's tiring, and hopefully it'll be ending soon. Like you said, a bunch of different scenarios could happen. Maybe Call of Duty stops being sold in the UK. Honestly, I can see that happening, and if that happens, I'll be mad because I like Call of Duty. I'll just have to import it. But yeah, it's a stupid situation. It hopefully will be ending soon. And, none of these companies, by the way, are, like, truly our friends. Like, they look at us as numbers. But when it comes to, like, support and, like, treatment, like, I know people that have lost money due to, the PSN hack in 2011. I've never once lost money because of Microsoft. And Microsoft, they still have ways to go when it comes to, like, getting better. I think
I have beef with some of what they do still.
Yeah, like the minimum amount of printed copies they need for physical copies. That's something that needs fixing. The fact that the dashboard has these really cool dynamic themes which move, but you can't see because of the app icons are massive. Things like that. And like, let's face it, like Microsoft, they have a wide variety of first-party games in development, but one in particular people want more of, and that's third-person action-adventure games. Like, all these companies can improve in somewhere, but like the second Microsoft wants to buy Activision, it's a problem. Sony bought, I think it was 8 studios last year, and they rumored to be buying more this year, and they have $5 billion for studio acquisitions this year. Like, all those will be passed straight away, and they'll be fine because nobody judges Sony like they judge other companies. Like, we have to admit, Sony gets looked at differently than Microsoft. People pretend that Sony's this special game developer and publisher. It's like they're just another box maker and all that stuff. Like, why do people keep putting Sony on a pedestal? Because of the games? Because of the studios they bought? Like, think about this: when the PlayStation 1 came out, excuse me, like they were buying studios left and right. They were paying for money-hatted titles, and they are renowned to have this, amazing first console generation. When one, the games look terrible, and it's arguably the worst generation when it comes to aged games, because the games from that generation have aged horribly due to the early polygonal art is aged terrible. But yeah, Sony, they just keep getting away with things and getting put on this pedestal. Remember, Microsoft had an E3 in 2013 where it was just games. Sony mentioned Netflix on their E3. Nobody batted an eye. People complained for years that Microsoft charged for online, like multiplayer. And then the second Sony started doing it, people said it was fine because Microsoft did it. Like, Sony raised the price of their console, it was fine. Sony raised the price of games to $70, it was fine. And £70, by the way, which is ridiculous. And now the industry is moving towards $70 and £70 as the price you pay for games. It's stupid the amount they get away with. And here's the thing, I don't have this thing against Sony. Like, they made some of my favorite games of all time. Shadow of the Colossus is a game I absolutely adore. It's a borderline masterpiece in my opinion. I loved playing the PlayStation as a kid, but preferences change. You grow out with things. Anyway, this will hopefully be ending next month, and we can all move on and never talk about it again. Anyway, we'll move on. Logan, have you got anything else to say before we change topics?
No, that's about it. You've covered it. It's an exhausting topic, and it's been fascinating and equal parts irritating and just noxious. But you know what? Next month we'll know one way or another.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. HellBlade 2. It's been in development for a long time. It was announced at the 2019 Game Awards along with the Xbox Series X announcement. We didn't hear about the game for a while, and then we saw a 5-minute gameplay demo at the Game Awards 2021. Outside of that, it's been fairly quiet. And well, it turns out this past week, Phil Spencer's visited Ninja Theory and played the game and saw it in action. So that's led a lot of people to believe that the game's still coming this year. Because the rumor's been for the past 4 months that the game will be basically Microsoft's way of closing out 2023. And with the amount of time that game's been in development, what that type of game is, and Phil Spencer going over to play it, like, I honestly believe that it's going to close out this year. I think it's been long enough. Granted, in 2020 and the beginning of 2021, they couldn't work from the office. They couldn't work in their motion capture studio. So there's that to take into account. But I think honestly it's been long enough, and we'll see HellBlade 2 released this year. Logan, am I reading too much into this, or do you think I might be onto something?
I've long believed it was coming this year, towards the end of the year. With the Starfield date of, fully set for September now, I could see it coming in late November or early December to close out the year, around the Game Awards time. Or HellBlade 2 just end the holiday on a high note, and still playing it is obviously a good sign. The fact that he went back to make sure he 100%ed HellBlade, the original, is another good sign. He's invested, he's liking what he sees. So, I'm excited, man. I can't wait for more HellBlade. Loved HellBlade.
Yeah, because Microsoft's always had this thing where they want to have a big summer, or should I say a big winter game, or a big holiday title. And last year they didn't really have that. They didn't really have a big holiday title. And I think they want to get back on track this year. They've faced multiple delays through the years. Everyone basically has. And the fact that they released Starfield in September makes me believe that they're going to release HellBlade in, I say, November or something like that. And when Phil Spencer was asked in a recent interview, what's coming this year, they said the summer showcase is happening. It's been confirmed that it's not part of the E3 showcase. I bet anything, no matter what their showcase is called or where it's at, it'll be air quote included in Summer Games Fest. I'm not gonna rant about that again. But you know what? If Microsoft has some Summer Game Showcase, I'll include it in Jamie Game Fest, and I'll just post the link because apparently that's how it works. But yeah, it looks like they're gonna have a Summer Showcase. I've seen some debate online about this, and some people arguing about it, whether Microsoft should still do the whole 12-month release cycle for the E3 showcase. Because last year they said all these games are coming out between now and 12 months from now. And now because Starfield got delayed, people have been saying Microsoft lied. Now, I'm a realist. I know that games get delayed, things happen. And people are saying that they should do the whole 12-month release thing with their E3 thing. I think screw it. I prefer to know the games I'm going to be playing in the next 12 months. If a game gets delayed, I don't really care. There's too many games coming out right now to the point where I can't really complain. Right? People assumed Starfield was going to be out in June. Have you seen how many games come out between now and June? There's like 50 big games, and people are like complaining. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm too relaxed on things, but I think the complaining of delays makes no sense, especially when we have so many games to play. Again, Star Wars Jedi Survivor got delayed to April. That was one of my most anticipated titles. It's unfortunate, but there's other things to play until then. And Logan, I know we've talked about this before. Do you think Microsoft should continue with the whole 12-month release cycle with their E3 announcements?
To me, I'm kind of a bit torn on it. Because on one hand, I'm like, hey, I like the idea of, what I see, I will be able to tangibly play within a year. Hey, that's awesome. I like that. Coming soon. On the other hand, kind of leaves in the dark the future, okay, what's hidden out there, what are those dream announcements I'm really hoping they have or working on. I feel like there's a happy medium somewhere, where you can have maybe either have just a showcase that's a mix of things where it's okay, this is just what we got coming soon, and then a few things from down the line. Have one that's dedicated to this is solely focused on games coming out in the next year. Then have another one that's you know what, here's some just fun projects we have in the works. They're not coming for a while, but we wanted to show you. I don't know, I feel like there's a way they could manage it to where everybody can win. Me, I don't think they're liars for having had that show and saying, hey, everything's coming out in 12 months. And then something happens with Starfield, and then it's okay, it's been delayed. Things happen. I would bet you that when they put that show out there, they had every intention of Starfield meeting that date. I don't think they would put it out there and go, watch this. We're going to put it and say it's going to come out in a year. And then we're going to announce later on that it's real release date. And then everybody's going to get mad at us and we'll all just laugh about it. No. I'm pretty sure, they had every intention to make that date. It just, things happen. And another thing, we talk about media, spinning things. Didn't you find it amusing, or maybe not amusing, how everything about the Starfield thing was delayed instead of its just release date was announced? Yeah. Everybody's even some of the bigger accounts that aren't really, lean one way or another, they just are aggregates. Spun it as a delay. Delayed till September, or this or that, instead of just, it's coming, a release date officially announced. September 2023. Everybody get hyped. It's see, it's delayed. Ooh, there's a Microsoft management problem again. And it's they spin the whole BS cycle over and over and over again. But if it was somebody else that announced a game, and it's okay, we finally have a release date, everybody would be hyped. Since it's Xbox, it's they delayed it. How dare they? This is bad. Phil, Matt, somebody's got to go. There's management issues, all this kind of nonsense. It's like, dude, they finally announced the release date. Be happy for once.
Yeah, no, if you're not going to say it, I will. They clickbaited. We all, like, shocked face is like, Phil Spencer messing up with the, Starfield is like management all over the place with the game. Yeah, it's clickbait. I don't do that on this channel because I think it's cringe. I think the whole clickbait thing, I don't like it. And the thing is, how can a game get delayed if it has no release date? That blows my mind. And they call in, like, I've seen multiple people, people with a large following, call for Phil's job because of it. And like, what's that Nintendo game that got announced in like 2016 or 17? Metroid Prime 4.
Prime 4.
Yeah, it was announced with a JPEG, and we heard nothing for years. And then what happened? They had to change developer and start the game from scratch. Like, isn't that mismanagement? But nobody was calling for anyone's job then. God of War got delayed. Nobody called for anyone's job. Last of Us got delayed. Nobody called for anyone's job. And it's like, it's just Microsoft. And it's like, Starfield didn't have a release date. It had a release window, 2023. And people may have said, oh, was it the first half? Who cares? Like, and by the way, it's just Microsoft's games people get angry at. Starfield got delayed. Everyone lost their mind. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, nobody got mad at all. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, whether you think it needed to be delayed or not is a different story. People were fine with it. I guarantee you, if any Sony game that gets announced this year to be delayed, people will be fine with it. They'll be like, oh, it's okay, it's going to be for the the best of the game. It's like, no. Like, where's that same energy? Like, I've seen multiple people with large followings call for Phil Spencer's job and saying, like, it's mismanagement. And by the way, this past week, I'm not naming names, I've heard people say that Microsoft, time and time again, are getting bad. They're getting worse because these delays prove that they have bad management of their studios. So you'd prefer to have bad games, or I should say, buggy games, leak, or should I say release. Like, I'm all over the place today. Like, it either works one or two ways. It either releases early and it's filled with bugs and people complain, or it releases at a related date, and this goes for any game, and we get less bugs. Like, I hate the fact that people just do this over and over again. Like, the clickbait over Starfield was incredible. Shocked face, like, oh my god, is Starfield in trouble? Like, no. Like, like, remember Elden Ring? That got delayed, and it's a masterpiece. Red Dead Redemption 2, I believe that got delayed. Masterpiece. I'm looking at my games right now. Most games get delayed, but it's just when Microsoft delays a game, people lose their mind, and then it's clickbait worthy. Clickbait trash worthy. But yeah, I hate that stuff. I can't stand the clickbait. It's like, who cares, right? Like 13 Carrier Productions said it in chat. Like, Miyamoto said that the classic quote: "A delay is better than quitting or rushing a game, or a delayed game is eventually good. A early release game is always bad," or something like that.
Yeah.
But like look at Cyberpunk, right? To this day, there's a large portion of people online that look at that game with disgust and like unwilling to play it because it's a quote unquote buggy mess. But from when I've played it, it's been 100% fixed, no problems. And like, people look at all releases now with that like skeptical look, like, oh, is it going to be another like Cyberpunk scenario? But that's not always the same case. Like, I've played Bethesda RPGs pretty much my whole life, and they've always had some minor bugs, and maybe a wheel of cheese gets stuck in a wall, or a character does a T-pose, stuff like that. Stuff that doesn't really matter, inconsequential stuff. But like, this Starfield delay just freaked people out. It's like, who cares? It's arguably the most ambitious game releasing this year. Like, let's look at the two other big first-party releases releasing this year. You have Spider-Man, the sequel, I should say Spider-Man 2. It's releasing in the same open world people have played in. People are basically getting a Spider-Man game set in the same open world with new missions. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I believe that's what it's called, is set in the same open world, essentially with new quests and events. The stuff in the sky as well. And yet we have this new IP by Bethesda, which has 1,000 planets, and people are scrutinizing beyond belief, despite the fact we haven't played it yet. Yet people will defend Tears of the Kingdom and, Spider-Man 2, which nobody has played yet or seen. We haven't seen any of Spider-Man, set in the same open world, by the way. And it's just, I hate this scenario, man. Like, it's what I love gaming, but I hate the way it's covered, and I hate the way it's like presented. Like, clickbait, clickbait, clickbait. All that's it on this. Like, I've been a Nintendo fan, a Sega fan, a PlayStation fan, Xbox fan. There was a time in my life where I was big into the Game Boy, and then the Game Boy Advance and PC. And it's like, I can look at it objectively and say like there's far more clickbait about Microsoft stuff. And the Starfield thing just it took everything up to 11. And it's a shame. It's a shame because the game's going to be good. And by the way, I'm going to predict something right now for the reviews. And you know how you always have those outliers that, like, if a game gets 8s and 9s, you always have that one place that gives it a 5 or 6, right? So when Todd Howard came out to speak about that game, he was like, hey, this game has over 100 star systems and over 1,000 planets. There's a big comment you see online of saying, hey, it's just going to be 1,000 planets of nothing, right? Now, do these people think that all planets would just be populated, filled with... Do these people realistically think we're going to see Coruscant on 1,000 planets? Like 1,000 planets where it's just entire cities. Like, that is unrealistic and stupid. Like, take an astronomy class, right? All planets are different. If you look at the gameplay trailer they showed last year, you see a gas giant with a bunch of moons around it in one solar system, right? Now, you can't stand on gas giants. That's still a planet. Just because there's 1,000 planets, that doesn't mean you can land on 1,000 planets. Like, as someone that follows astronomy, like, I talk about gaming a lot online, but my other big, interest is actually science and astronomy. I don't talk about that online because it bores people. But, yeah, it's stupid. And again, it still bewilders me that Nintendo got away with showing a JPEG of Metroid Prime 4 and it still isn't out, and it's changed developer, and nobody called for Miyamoto's job, or I should say whoever runs Nintendo at the minute, Doug Bowser. Like, where's that same energy? Like, again, people are okay with Nintendo and PlayStation delaying things. Starfield that didn't have a release date, people lose their minds, shocked face, crap video, clickbait. Anyway, we'll move on. Logan, have you got anything else to say on the topic?
The only a couple things, and if you wanted an example of Xbox mixed management, Halo Infinite, that would be it. And the fact that, frankly, that's a game they could have delayed a whole nother year, and probably it would have benefited from it. I'd almost guarantee it would have been far better had they just waited a whole nother year to delay it, made sure they had split screen, everything they had promised. I think, it would have been a bummer to have to wait, but I think it would have been better for it. And I think they went through all that, they learned from it, and they are just bent on not making that mistake again with Starfield. And so they are going to make sure it is polished to the nth degree. It's just squeaky clean, everything is pristine. So if that takes a little bit longer, so be it. I want the best brand new IP from Todd Howard in 20 years. I want, this extravagant space opera. Just give me the optimum Starfield experience. And I can wait a little bit. It's fine. I'd much rather it like that than my rocket ship, swirls, that it's spinning out of control and it goes through some asteroid and gets stuck, and I'm I have to do some weird button presses or actions to maybe glitch my way out of an asteroid or something like that. I remember really goofy bugs in Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout, and it's It was a thing. Bugthesda was a thing, and they just don't want that happen again. So just be patient, and it'll work out.
Yeah, and I think the game they get out will be good. And as someone that like I need sci-fi games, right? And like I keep an eye on a bunch. There's some like smaller sci-fi games coming out this year that not really anyone's paying attention to that look really good. Hint, hint.
Stars above.
Yeah, Scars Above. That I think that just released. It looks pretty good though. And the Expanse game releases this summer. Things like Outcast 2: A New Beginning. That's an open world third person action adventure game set on an alien planet where you have a jetpack. Nobody's talking about it. But we have to talk about Starfield and its delay and how people are losing their minds. But yeah, I think Starfield will be good. And by the way, for people listening, I have a video finally coming out about Starfield this week about some unreleased details about the game. So keep an eye on that. Okay, finally. We've actually got a few topics left. So, it just came out today by Insider Gaming that Sony is now preparing a PlayStation 5 Pro for 2025. Actually, one second, I'll check the date. They are planning it for 2024, so next year. And I laughed out loud because I don't think that's happening at all. Tom Henderson from Twitter, who's been very reliable in the past when it comes to specific announcements, has said it's not happening. The PlayStation that releases either late this year or next year is essentially a PlayStation 5 with a removable disc drive. Now, why am I talking about this on an Xbox show? It's because people have mentioned, what about Xbox? It was an inevitability. My honest opinion, I don't think mid-gen refreshes are necessary. And here's why. When the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 came out, they were underpowered consoles. They really were. Normally in the past, when we've got consoles, compared to PCs, they've actually been really powerful. But the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, excuse me, were essentially decent PCs from 2010. That's what we were getting. And they were extremely underpowered. And like, if anyone ever sees the inside of an Xbox One, like the launch one, there's so much empty space inside because they were concerned about heating. And like the PlayStation 4, like that originally was going to have 4 gigabytes of RAM, but they found out that Microsoft had 8 in, so they changed it at the last minute. Like all these different scenarios. And basically, the Xbox One came out, people did the whole resolution gate thing, all these games were bad because of its resolution, and then you had the rise of 4K content, 4K Blu-rays were in development, more 4K movies were being made, and television manufacturers start making 4K televisions. So Microsoft and Sony start putting out 4K capable consoles. Granted, the One X was far more powerful than the Pro, the PlayStation 4 Pro, but there were 4K consoles that could do 4K content, and that's why. It was because the televisions were there. Nobody's buying 8K televisions. No one. At all. Nobody cares about 8K televisions. 4K content looks amazing. And basically, one of these people from Insider Gaming had this post, things listed that would be in a PlayStation 5 Pro, and I laughed out loud because it's so funny, right? So 8K 60 FPS, 4K 120 FPS. Do you know the funny thing about those things? These consoles we have now have that basically advertised on the box in the small print. So like, there's nothing different there. 2 times the ray tracing. What kind of metric is that? 2 times the ray. How do you have 2 times the ray tracing? Like, Logan, does that sound stupid to you? 2 times the ray tracing.
Yeah, is it like just doubly illuminated or extra shiny, or like what is the metric they're going with there?
Like that just makes no sense. I saw this funny meme before. It's why the US won't adopt the metric system, and it was like there's like 6 hot dogs per alligator. like that's what this is. It's stupid. 2x ray tracing makes no sense. You're not going to double the light. And the price, by the way, this is adorable, right? So all this stuff in a PlayStation 5 Pro, $400. with a disc drive.
Man, Sony's charitable now.
Yeah. So bear in mind they've went from raising the price of the current console, well in the UK anyway. I don't think they've done it in the US yet, but like to releasing a 8K 60 FPS $400 console with 2 times the ray tracing. Now I just laughed because, excuse me, that's just not happening. Like, there's no reason for these console manufacturers to make pro consoles. There's no new television technology that's taken over that requires new hardware. Like, you have more television manufacturers making 120 FPS displays. Like, Samsung and LG are making more of those and more gaming-centric televisions because that's where a lot of the market's going now. And 4K content still isn't there. Hell, in the UK, standard definition television is still mainstream, right? You have to pay for the HD channels most of the time, right? That's HD, not 4K. Like, it's stupid. And here's the thing, the next gen consoles, the Xbox, we'll call it 6. I really hope they just go with a number this time. Get rid of the naming convention. Just go Xbox 6. The Xbox 6, I'm calling it, and the PlayStation 6, like, those are coming out in 2027, 2028. Like, there's a long way to go. Will we see Slims? Absolutely. Do I think we'll see an Xbox Series X Slim? You know, maybe it's shorter, maybe it's more like a cube. Yeah, I think we'll see that. You know, there's been rumors that the Xbox Series S will get a disc drive. That's about the right size to have a disc drive slap underneath it, you know? But to have pro consoles this early on, and bear in mind, developers aren't using the tools still. You know, developers aren't using the R&D and RDNA2 tool set of the Xbox Series X and S. That's why we see performance issues. That's why you see these games work better on a PlayStation 5, which is weaker hardware, because developers just aren't doing the job, basically. And I don't know, Logan, what's your thought on this? Because like the talk of pro consoles, despite the fact that most games for the past 2 years were delayed to this year, it's stupid.
Yeah, I honestly think it's just goofy for a whole variety of reasons. One, like, with what chips are you going to be making these things? Because if you haven't noticed, everybody and their dog has been struggling to get one of these base consoles to begin with, like a Series X or PS5. Those things suckers fly off shelves, and they're hardly keeping in stock. You can get a Series S, which is a great deal and a great value, and I recommend it if you can't get another one. But just like in general, they're super hard to get. So you want to go from these are already hard to get to spinning off and making a different version of your console already when it's finally getting going. And then developers are already still dealing with Xbox One and PS4 versions of some games that are still coming out. So you want them to have a version of an Xbox One version, a PS4 version, an Xbox Series S and X version, and then a PS5 version, and then a PS5 Pro update, or maybe an Xbox Series Y or whatever, like if there was a Pro console. It's like, it's just adding up to just, it doesn't make sense from a whole variety of reasons for right now. Like a slim version, sure. Maybe a digital version of the Series X, yeah, I could see that. Make an external detachable hard drive, or not hard drive, but disk drive for the Series S, so that people can play older BC games like Fear, for example, that are only physical, unless you were one of the lucky few who bought it digitally like a decade ago. I could see that, but the idea of just a slightly revised console 2 years in, just it doesn't carry water to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any, like, nobody's asking for this. Like, we all know these developers aren't using the entire tool set. Like, I mean, look, I've been playing Atomic Heart. That's 4K 60 FPS. I don't care about 120 frames, by the way. For some reason, it kicks in my motion sickness. But like 4K 60, I'm good. I don't need 2 times the ray tracing. By the way, let's be honest, right? A lot of the time, ray tracing is extremely overrated. It uses up too much hardware, and sometimes there's not much difference, right? I think Gotham Knights, that has ray tracing, it looks pretty good actually. At night, there's reflections in all the puddles, there's the way it works, the lighting works through all the volumetric fog. It looks really nice. But like, there's some games I've been playing, and I'm just like, there's not much difference. I don't really care for it, and I turn it off. You know, next gen for me isn't just resolution or higher frames per second or ray tracing. It's like things like better physics, things like that. Things we actually see. Do you know what annoys me when I play a game and I defeat a bunch of enemies and they all disappear? Right? That really annoys me. That shouldn't be happening still, especially with the current hardware we have. Just stuff like that. We don't need better hardware. And think about most games to this day are releasing multi-generation still. So like you were saying, developers, and by the way, a lot of big releases still get Xbox One X enhancements and PlayStation 4 upgrades, meaning developers would have to make for Xbox One, One X, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5 Pro, PlayStation X Pro. Like, stop it. Like, we don't need it. And here's the thing. I would be making more money if Microsoft talked about hardware, because hardware gets more clicks. But nobody's wanting it. We want games. Games have been delayed for years. Star Wars Jedi Survivor would have been out last year if it wasn't for the pandemic. All the games we're playing right now basically would have been out a year and a half ago. Hogwarts Legacy was originally going to come out in 2020. Things were just delayed so much because of the pandemic. Like, we're waiting for the games. Screw the hardware. We have the hardware. And most people still can't find consoles. Like, it's the dumbest thing. I hope it's just a rumor, because there's no excitement. When we had the Xbox One and its crusty 900p, which everyone kept saying, moving to 4K was damn nice. Like, look, did you have a One X?
Yeah, I had the VCR Xbox One that was weighed like 20 pounds. Then I upgraded to an Xbox One S with the Gears of War bundle, and then I upgraded to the Xbox One X, and then the Series X. So yeah, I've had the gauntlet of them.
Like the jump in graphics, visual fidelity from One X to One X was night and day. Like 4K Red Dead Redemption 2. It was basically a next-gen experience. And, like, now, like, there isn't that people aren't wanting more. We just want better performance. We want games to look... The games we have now could look better and perform better if developers put the time in it and use the tool set. Because the tools are getting better, but developers aren't putting the extra time into it. And it's a silly topic. And when I saw that in my feed today, I just laughed. Like... I'd be interested, anyone in chat, are you really clamoring for a PlayStation 5 Pro or an Xbox Series X, Triple X? Like, I can't really see any need for it at the minute. Nobody wants it. There's no need. 8K televisions aren't a thing, and the ones you can buy are stupidly priced, and the content, it's still not there. Like, nobody's really making 8K content unless you're Samsung trying to sell a television and it comes with a special, like, file that you can play. Other than that, nobody cares. Until developers take advantage of what we have now, there's no point. And again, 8K TVs are like a decade away from being the norm. Like, most actors don't even like being shown in 4K, by the way, because you can see all the pores and, like, basically every single bit of skin on an actor's face. They don't like 4K. Now, imagine that with 8K. Like, you'd be able to see the DNA of actors. Like, I'm good, right? Yeah, it's just stupid, man. I roll my eyes at this, because you're going to see, I guarantee in the next 2 days, people open up the YouTube feeds, and you're going to see the recommended tab, and you're going to see all these AI-generated PlayStation 5 Pros. Like, I hate clickbait. Like, it's...
GTA 6 leaks. Yes.
GTA 6. Oh, by the way, speaking of GTA 6 leaks, there's trending things on Twitter right now of a GTA 6 leak. It's actually Watch Dogs 2. but people believe, but people,
Oh my god.
yeah, people are losing their mind saying, "Oh my god, this looks amazing." It's like you can play it now. It's called Watch Dogs 2. Like, bloody hell. You just remove the hood from a Watch Dogs game, call it GTA 6. You've got yourself some clickbait. But yeah, I think that's it for today, Logan. Have you got anything else to say before we go?
No, just I'm looking forward to next week. We'll see what kind of drama flies in there from ABK and all this other stuff, and hopefully there's some surprise game news. That'd be nice. Phil mentioned potentially some smaller announcements coming or Game Pass and stuff like the GoldenEye remaster. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I think we should have some game stuff in the next week, and yeah. So people online. Oh, by the way, if I'm guessing people are following me on here and are listening right now, please just go onto Twitter and search GTA 6. It's all Watch Dogs 2 stuff, and people are falling for it. It's hilarious. I had a good laugh before. But yeah, we'll be back at the same time next week. The reason the UK time is different is because the clocks don't go back till the 26th, I think. And they went back already in the US, so we had to adjust. But yeah, same time as usual in the US next week and probably the week after. I have a video about Starfield coming out this week. Some unreleased details, fun times. But yeah, everyone in chat's been awesome. By the way, last week we had our first PlayStation fanboys in the chat arguing. They haven't been here this week.
We've made it.
Yeah, we made it. And honestly, I think we have the best chat. No arguing, decent discussion, and no fanboys arguing other than that last week. And this is the third week in a row without porn bots. Congratulations, everyone. Like, do you know how hard it is to have a live stream without porn bots showing up? It's pretty difficult. They just come out of nowhere. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Same time. Hope everyone has a good day. We're out. Peace.